beautiful pictorial applique is far more accessible than you might think.
That's right, Marianne.
And on today's program, you will learn how to do quick and easy fusible applique the McKenna-Ryan way.
How to make 3D elements to add to an applique project.
And how to finish an applique project with simple free motion stitching.
Funding for Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting is provided by...
For over 40 years, Baby Lock has been dedicated to the love of sewing by creating machines for quilting, sewing, embroidery, and serging. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Koala Studios delivers sewing furniture custom built in America.
American Professional Quilting Systems, APQS, offers a full line of hand-guided quilting machines made in America's heartland for America's artisans.
Madeira, makers of embroidery, quilting, and sewing in serger thread. Color your life with Madeira. Reliable Corporation, makers of reliable irons. No spitting, no leaking, no kidding. Hoffman California Fabrics, artful screen prints and Bali batiks designed to inspire quilters. Omnigrid, providing quilters with specialty rulers and accessories for over 25 years. Quilters Club of America, offering patterns and videos to the passionate quilter.
Welcome to Love of Quilting. You're watching Series 2000 of our program, and today's guest is applique artist McKenna-Ryan. McKenna, I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
Your work is so beautiful, and you brought so many pieces, but let's start out by looking at one that's on our big wall over here.
Okay.
And this is Bella
Garden.
Bella Garden. You were talking to me before we started the show about how your students and people who admire your work just wonder, how do you put this all together?
Yes. Well, it's really a very simple process, and that's what we're here to show you today. A lot of people will look at this or any of the work and go, oh, that's so beautiful, but there's no way I could do that. And they're completely intimidated by all the little pieces and all of that.
The little bees and the butterflies.
Exactly, and they're just extremely intimidated. So we're here to show the folks that really it is a beautifully simple process.
Well, and I think, you were telling me about how you sort of break it down to where that center portion of the garden, that's like one section. And then the lily pads and the frog, that's a section.
Right.
And then the wisteria, that's a section. It's like anything. If you break it down to the elements, it's not so intimidating, and then it all comes together. And I think the birds that are in the blocks at the top and the bottom of the quilt, you can see they're like small applique blocks.
Yep. And so generally with my projects, you can break them down to make them small individual art quilts or combine them all to make one big compilation. And once you get the technique, something like this, like I said, will not be overwhelming anymore. So,
well, what I think is so special about today is that you designed a project specifically for us to share with our viewers today so that they can really see how easy it is.
Yep.
So let's take a look at our little birdhouse and chickadee.
Great.
So we have just one central element, right?
We have just the birdhouse, which is super simple to make, and that's what I have here to demonstrate, as well as all the other components.
So we have a little chickadee standing to the side, and this is so neat. We're going to talk about how to do these three-dimensional butterflies. So we've got one here, and we've got one that's in profile, so to speak, on that side. Okay, so here, so you do a lot of patterns and you design fabrics.
Yes.
Both batik fabrics and printed fabrics. And so your patterns are really a way to utilize those beautiful fabrics. So here we have, this is a pattern format that your students and your fans would
recognize. So every pattern has a cutting guide and a placement guide.
Let's just put it right here so we can, okay, so here's the cutting guide. This has all the pieces that we're going to use, right? Okay.
Yes.
And then this placement guide, this is where the artist in you has done the work for them, right?
Right. So it's a little bit kind of like paint by numbers in a way.
Okay, so when we have a pattern, then we're going to need to create appliques. I'm just going to stick this over here just for a minute. So here's our material.
So the first step is to take a lightweight fusible web and trace all of my pattern pieces, which have been reversed already for everyone. So it's a mirror image of the final piece.
Right, because when we use fusible web, it's going to flip over.
Exactly.
If a person were wanting to do hand applique with your patterns, which they could, then they're pointing the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciated how you got everything on one piece, because I've lived in the country as you have. You don't, if you run out of fusible web on Sunday afternoon, there's no hope. So
Yeah, exactly.
So you've used
You wanna
every
conserve.
little scrap there.
Exactly.
And of course there's numbering too.
Yes, the numbering is going to, as you'll see as we progress, it's very important to number as you go along, because as you build the applique, it's going to be kind of in sequential order. So you'll want to make sure that you do number or letter, whatever's on the cutting guide.
Okay.
So
here I think we were talking earlier. Here's some of our birdhouse pieces.
Right. So in this case, I went ahead and just traced the birdhouse pieces. And then a little tip for everyone is, when you go to cut out around each of the elements, I use a kind of a craft scissor. I don't use my smaller scissors because I want to just go and make, large cuts and, kind of speed the process along.
I call this
a little
rough
bit.
cutting. Sometimes you rough cut them out. We're going to do the finer cutting.
Exactly.
And I like big scissors too because you don't have to open and shut them as many times.
And conserve some energy. So you'll get all of the pieces cut out.
Okay, and here's some of the fabrics that I know that you used on our little birdhouse. Okay, and this is fascinating to me because, this is a beautiful batik.
Right.
Okay, but some people, like me, might just kind of slap
put
them on
anywhere.
here.
Yes, I've kind of become pretty known for fussy cutting or, placement of my fabrics. It's really important to me. It's kind of part of the artistry of putting them together. And so on this particular one, I didn't just line them up to conserve fabric, and you're going to see that I kind of do that. But
it's okay to conserve fabric if you want to.
Right, yes.
But we don't necessarily want to.
Not always. Not always. And in this case, the birdhouse, as you can see here, I wanted to get a difference in, here's the purple side, and I knew that this was going to be the underneath piece here.
As if the roof kind of wrapped around behind.
Give it some dimension. So in order to do that, I wanted to be careful about where I chose. So the roof is here in the purple, and the underneath part is going to be in this section here.
Because it's a little darker?
Yes,
because
it's darker. It's a different color range, or maybe a different value. On the bottom, I made sure that, somehow I got some difference so that you could see the different.
Well, and I think a lot of quilters, we know the term fussy cutting. We don't think about it with batiks as much. And we also think about, like putting a flower in the middle of grandmother's flower garden.
Yes.
But in applique to do fussy cut, it kind of opened up my mind to see your work and to see how you do it. And I also thought it was neat. Here's this beautiful piece of batik. And this is some of the batik that you have styled.
Some of them are, some aren't, yes.
But how you positioned your birdhouse body of the birdhouse so that flower would be in a beautiful position. Okay.
And I just having people take the time to decide maybe how would they like to have that.
Okay. All right. So, and then also, this was another tip I thought was really good when we were talking ahead of time is, your fabric, it comes on a bolt or it comes and folded in fat quarters, and you want to think about preparing that fabric.
Right, and so be sure to iron out all creases and wrinkles and things, because once you put the fusible down, if you iron right here, you're going to have that crease in your applique. It's going to be very difficult to get that out.
So, and all your work is really flat and smooth, and it's all these little things along the step of the way, McKenna, that really gets you there.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And so I will, make sure that those are out. Spray starch, whatever it takes to get it nice and smooth. It also gives it a little bit more body when you're cutting around the edges.
Yeah. Okay, so next is our placement pattern, right?
Well, so we've cut, then we have to cut on the line. Once we've put the fusible on our pieces.
And here's kind of a set, it's kind of a pile of stuff, but these are pieces. These are more pieces for the birdhouse. Yeah.
So at this point, I would take my smaller scissors. I want to be a bit more precise, and I'm going to cut right on the lines.
And this is where you want those nice pointed tips.
Yes, I love these.
Yeah.
And so this is a little tip too that I'd like to say. I used to be a hand applique artist. But I quickly went to fusible because I wanted to do more intricate designs. And in order to do that, the fusible was a lot easier for me.
Those little tiny pieces you really can't turn under.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you're cutting, like with some of my intricate trees and things, you don't have to be like perfect because trees don't grow naturally, perfect. So try to stay on the line, but if you're off a little, it's okay.
No one's going to know. It's not like the precision of patchwork, which is a whole different
Exactly.
topic. Okay. Okay, so once you have your set of pieces, these are birdhouse pieces, what's next? It's
So then we're going to take and going to start to build the applique. So you'll take your placement guide again.
And I'm going to be kind of your helper here,
Yes,
right?
please.
So we're going to lay this under, and this is an applique
pressing sheet.
Pressing
and
sheet.
It's a Teflon sheet where you can see the design, the placement guide below, and the pieces will adhere to this, but it won't stay forever.
It's kind of magical.
It's a magical sheet. So we're going to take our pieces, and they're done by numbers. So we're going to choose number 1.
Okay.
You'll peel the paper off.
Okay, I'll peel.
And then if you see right here is number 1.
I'm just going to drop this in our little wastebasket. So yeah, like all applique, we're building from the background to the foreground.
Exactly.
So this is the number 1 piece, so it goes down. And I don't know how well people can see through this, but you can see our guides are right under here. So that's
exactly.
Okay.
So then you want to just tap that down.
Okay.
Yep. And just enough that it just sort of stays in place and it won't move.
No mushing.
Yeah. No, that's plenty.
Okay.
That's plenty. And then number 2, which is this piece.
Okay. And that goes here.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Tap that
And so
down.
do you tap on each one you put on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Just
so it's
it
not going to
doesn't
move.
shift.
Okay, I got
Exactly.
it.
Number 3. It goes here. Actually, it goes up in here.
We might not do it perfect on TV. It's not always my very absolute best work, but people get the idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And then I think this was number 4.
And that's where we get this little edge.
Yes.
And it was darker, and it really looks like it's dimensional.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you've got this guy.
Okay. Yeah, and if you don't peel it, you know pretty quick, don't you? Because it doesn't stick.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so then we have the little bird, my little chickadee, and I've already assembled this one,
Okay.
except for the beak, and I wanted to demonstrate the beak just a little bit here.
So this you used the applique pressing sheet also
I
to
did.
join these pieces, and everybody's going to see in a minute how amazing this is when this becomes one giganto.
Yep, and it makes
applique.
it super simple. So,
Our little iron is our friend who talks to us.
okay, so
Now, this would be hard to hand applique.
here's a little tip on these little pieces, and I'm sort of known for my small little pieces, intricate pieces. I don't think that was quite cut correctly, but use a pair of tweezers if you need to place it. And sometimes I will build it right here. Other times I might pull this off and build him on the side.
And then move it.
And then move him.
Because you can peel it up.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I might have created him here, put his little beak on. I use these tweezers.
Because your fingers just are not small
Sometimes
enough.
they're not. There we go.
Okay, so
and
I'm
then
going
press
to
that
touch
down.
that.
That's good.
Okay.
And then, really important part. This is great.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Make sure that it cools
Yeah.
before you peel it up, because if you don't, then it's going to kind of adhere to how it will fold back and
It's
maybe
like taking a cookie off the cookie sheet
Yeah,
before it cools.
you don't want to do that.
You want to be not in too big a hurry.
So then you put this back
where it was.
and then you'll see the bird
Our
outline,
little chickadee
outline, and then you put that on there. So
Okay, now I can tap it.
Right.
And we would just keep on in this way, right? Till we had all the pieces down. Okay. So, do the magic.
there we go. We can do the magic
so
on that
I'm going to
one.
move this clear over here, out of the way. And here we have this whole applique.
Right.
Beautiful.
So once it's cooled and you have everything in place, and we did everything the same way by number.
Look at this.
And here you go.
This is amazing.
So there's no guesswork.
You've
done that all for
created
you.
a large applique.
Ta-da!
Isn't that amazing?
There.
So here,
So then we have our quilt top that's already been assembled. And we can just place it right on there.
and something that I think is really unique and noteworthy about your work is how these branches are going to break the border.
Yes, exactly. I always
you
have
can
to
do-
think outside the box.
And okay, now wait a minute. I'm getting myself. Okay, this comes up right about there, and we could put. You can just decide. I mean, you'd have your pattern piece. You'd have
Right.
your photograph.
You have your photograph.
Your photographs. I think this
And so
has
you
to
can
scoot
just
over just
match
a
it.
little bit like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be exact to what I've done. Maybe you might want to do it
A little bit
your
different.
way.
Okay. So is it ready to
Yes.
be?
So
okay.
at this point, you would tap it to fuse it in place.
kind of like basting it with an iron, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Yeah, you don't want to go back and forth.
Okay.
And make sure everything is secure. And I guess follow the manufacturer's
Right.
instructions on the fusible to how long.
Right. And I think we've got steam going here. I don't think you're supposed to.
No,
But
no, I was
read the
noticing
instructions.
that.
Okay. So we've got our picture made here, but we also have to put some butterflies on,
Yes,
right?
we do.
Okay. And
here's
what
one
you
of the
do, now that one, that can go on, and he can go just kind of anywhere. I'm going to put him kind of where he is on your,
Right.
about like that.
Yep, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, now we got to make our special butterfly.
Okay.
So the butterfly pattern was there. And,
Same thing, same process.
Okay.
Where you're
so here's the
tracing
pattern
it.
pieces.
Right.
And
Iron it to your fabric.
iron it to your fabric.
Then you cut it out on the lines.
Okay. So here are the top wings and the bottom wings with the paper attached right here. They're actually falling off. So once those came off, then on your applique pressing sheet,
put
you
it
would
together.
make a composite
Right.
applique of the
Exactly.
butterfly. Okay.
Exactly.
So you have the exterior, the back side of one side of the butterfly made. Okay.
And on this particular one, there isn't any part that's sewn down. It's all three-dimensional. So you take that entire piece and you fuse it onto a separate piece of fabric.
Okay. And so you used a pretty contrasting
I did.
purple here. So now we have butterfly
Right.
top and butterfly backside.
Right.
So it's a matter of, you want me to cut?
Sure, if you'd like.
Okay.
So, yep, I use the contrasting fabric just so to show how you need to go around the edges.
And I cut it nice, right? Now, this time I'd be cutting it nice, like
Yes.
not rough cut, but cutting
right,
it nice.
exactly.
Okay.
You're going to try to cut right on the edges. Sometimes I'll even catch a little bit of this, just so that there's no jagged edges showing.
Right.
And most often I won't use a fabric that has so much contrast.
But it makes it easy for everybody to see on the show.
Exactly.
So once I go all the way around that, then we have this basically reversible butterfly.
Exactly.
So that the wings can fly.
Yes,
And then that goes on
right there.
here. But
We wait.
we wait.
Yes, we set those aside until we were finished with the quilting.
Okay, so this we can set aside. I'm just going to put it right out here because the magic of television, we have one that's ready to go. Okay, so this has backing.
Right. So it's been sandwiched. Right. Pressed. And so now is the quilting part. And the way I quilt it is with a free motion stitch around the edges using a monofilament thread.
Which is interesting to me that you use monofilament to a very great success because it's invisible.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But that's nice because it you don't have to be exacting again, And for me, usually when I'm finishing up a project, I'm on a deadline and I won't have to switch my threads that way.
Right.
I can just do one thread and it just gives it a lovely finished look and adds some dimension.
And we're going to wait to put those butterflies on because you don't want to have to avoid them.
Exactly.
Although would we have had...
That guy would go on.
Guy would go on, and
He's where did he go?
Well, no, okay, wait, I got it. It's
Here
this.
he is. He's actually on this one.
It's on this one.
Yeah, so
But
he's going to go on later.
He's going here, yeah.
Yeah, he'll
Right.
go on later.
He'll go on later. Okay, so here's your pins.
Okay. So usually how I do it is I baste with a straight pin around the element that I'm going to quilt.
So don't worry about this other part right now.
Not really. No, I mean I'll press the whole thing, when I've sandwiched it, but then I'll baste just around.
So you're pinning away from where you're going to stitch, but kind of close to where you're going to stitch.
Right.
Which is interesting to me because I would have pinned the whole thing and a lot of machine quilters use safety pins.
Oh yes, no.
This is a kind of a different way to flip it around so it's easy for you.
Right, and I pin this section, I finish it, and then I take the pins out, I press outwards, and then
With
I'll
your
pin
hands?
this section. Hands or the iron, depending on what it needs.
Mm-hmm. But your whole goal is to get all that fullness.
Right, continue to move it out.
The air.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because on the larger quilts, I use the same method on those larger quilts. So I'm starting in the center and I'm moving out, and that way it lies flat at the end.
Okay, so your machine is set up with the darning foot.
Yes, feed dogs down.
Yep, and I'm going to get this out of the way so people can see. We don't have time to do very much stitching, but I know everyone loves to see the quilt artist doing what they know how to do. And so monofilament thread and just kind of clamping down the area you're going to work on, and darning foot. You dropped the feed dogs, right? Maybe you said that already.
Right, feed dogs are down.
And we'll put a
pull my
list
thread
of special supplies or, feet that we've used or anything at fonsandporter.com on the TV section so that you can print a PDF that has all we can find out where McKenna's quilt is going to be in Love of Quilting magazine, so you'll want to know where that project is. Okay, so you brought your thread up.
So I've brought my thread up, and then I secure it, and then away I go, and I just go on the edges.
So you're appliquing and quilting
at the same time.
Exactly. So really, you've kind of streamlined that step, because if I do a lot of blanket stitch applique, then I have to go back and quilt it. Oh yeah, the gloves.
Yes, I have to have my gloves. I can start for a little while and then I go, I'm missing something.
And that just helps you get a good grip on everything.
Yes, and I can keep it tight, and it makes it much easier.
I love the monofilament thread. That's neat. So just go around a little bit more of that, because I want us to be sure to have time to look at some more of your beautiful quilts. Make that little turn.
And so on a larger quilt, of course, you're not turning the quilt at all. I'm just going around.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yep.
Typical machine, domestic machine quilting techniques.
Exactly.
When it's a little project like this, you have the luxury of pivoting.
The luxury is right.
Okay.
It feels luxurious, for sure, after doing the big ones.
Well, it's wonderful to watch you do this, but I want us also to take time to take a look at some of the other quilts that you brought along.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the one over on the other big wall.
Okay, that's called Petals of My Heart 2. I actually originally designed that about, I'd say 9 years ago, and I revisited it, and I've used some of my newer fabrics that I've created and added new critters and the three-dimensional butterflies, as you see.
You're obviously a nature lover.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Everything is always nature-inspired in one way or another.
And now that we've seen how you isolate each one of these blocks, is kind of its own quilt. I mean, you're going to put it all together, but I mean, in terms of while you're getting the applique set up, you're doing them one section at a time.
Exactly. And no longer does that seem overwhelming.
Right.
I could do that fireweed in the same way.
It's like you can eat a whole carton of ice cream if you just do it one spoonful at a time, right? And I love this farm scene. This is great with the three-dimensional clothesline.
Yep, that's called Storybook Farm. And the clothesline was a big hit.
Yep.
No question.
So there's a little three-dimensional quilt hanging on the line, and the clothes, and it's got great perspective, and that would be the same thing where you just work from the background to the foreground, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And finally, we got just a little more time left. These are the newest pieces, right?
Yes, this is called... These are called, well, they don't have actual names for each individual one, but it's a new series I've started called Naturally McKenna. And because it's taking me back to sort of my roots when I started my business in Montana. And I have a following who's always telling me, McKenna, get back in the woods. So I have to kind of go back and do some bear and moose and that
So when they ask, you respond.
Yep.
That's
so
great.
I do. I try.
Well, your work is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think I've learned a lot from you just in the short time we've been together. And I know we've got a few more little tips up your sleeve. So stick around for tips, and we'll share some of McKenna's special tips with you. Grab a pencil. Tips and other useful information coming up next. McKenna, what's your first tip for us?
Well, one unique way to finish your quilt would be to go to an art store and get a stretched canvas, and instead of finishing it with the border, you can stretch a piece on a canvas.
Mm-hmm. And you would just use a staple gun, right?
Right, staple gun, and so you could do this as a nice gift. It would take you about an hour.
Isn't that that's amazing?
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of a fun, unique way to finish. The other tip is placement again on fabric.
Fussy cutting.
Fussy cutting. So these leaves, I had a piece of fabric and I wanted it to kind of look like it was reflecting
It's like,
light.
And rather than being all one color.
Right.
And I noticed this about other leaves in your work. I mean, they're really like they're glimmering and shimmering.
Yes.
Not so easy. It doesn't happen just like that, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's kind of a specific thing.
So this is what your fabric looks like after you've cut your leaves from it, right?
People kind of always know when I've been around. Because, I don't want to necessarily go right in here because it's going to just be dark and it has speckles and it's not giving me the right effect.
So you want your leaves to look like sunlight is actually dappling on them.
Exactly.
So she's taking really fussy cutting to a whole new level, right?
I think so.
And you have a lot of irons at home, right?
I do. I have 3 ironing stations in my studio. One is for the messy work of the fusible, because when you have the pencil mark on there, it gets on your iron. You don't want to iron your top with that same iron. It's got fusible maybe that's gotten stuck on it. And so
that's sort of like the quarantine island
exactly.
of the ironing station.
Right.
Like
it was just for the, when you're ironing the fusible onto the back side of the fabric. And then I have I save my nice iron, clean iron for any work on top of my quilt.
So that your top, anything that would show always goes to ironing station number 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And my third ironing station, I like a small iron. This is like a craft iron. And it just helps me to kind of press everything down. It's not, then I don't have something big that I'm working with, especially because I have the little intricate
for precision work.
Yeah,
those are great tips.
Yeah.
We love the tips that you send us as well. If you have tips you'd like to share, you can mail them to Fons and Porter, P.O. Box 171, Winterset, Iowa, 50273. Or if you'd like to email them, go to the tip section of our website, fonsandporter.com. And if we use one of your tips on a future show, we'll send you a 1-year free subscription to our magazine, Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting. McKenna, I have had a great time viewing your work and learning what goes into it. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Additional quilting ideas from Marianne and Liz are available in Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting magazine. A 1-year subscription contains 60 or more projects, easy-to-follow step-by-step instructions, and our tips, techniques, and shortcuts. In addition to the magazine, you will get 2 DVDs containing all 13 shows from the 2000 series and 2 additional booklets with extra projects, tips, and techniques. The cost is $29.97. To order, call 866-729-9601 or visit our website, fonsandporter.com/TV special.
You can visit our website for free quilt tips,
So easy quilting lessons,
and slideshows of spectacular quilts.
download free quilt patterns,
See supply lists for TV projects.
join our quilting community, and more.
Log on to fonsandporter.com.
Funding for Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting is provided by
For over 40 years, Baby Lock has been dedicated to the love of sewing by creating machines for quilting, sewing, embroidery, and serging. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Koala Studios delivers sewing furniture custom built in America.
American Professional Quilting Systems, APQS, offers a full line of hand-guided quilting machines made in America's heartland for America's artisans.
Madeira, makers of embroidery, quilting, and sewing in serger thread. Color your life with Madeira. Reliable Corporation, makers of reliable irons. No spitting, no leaking, no kidding. Hoffman, California Fabrics, artful screen prints and Bali batiks designed to inspire quilters. Omnigrid, providing quilters with specialty rulers and accessories for over 25 years. Quilters Club of America, offering patterns and videos to the passionate quilter.